All right, folks, we're going live here today. Hickson, Tennessee. We're at Abba's house. We have been meeting and planning a parent seminar / workshop we're going to be hosting in August right here in Hickson, Tennessee. We hope that you'll be a part if your kid is participating in sport. We believe that you need to be here, not because we have all the answers, but we do believe that there's a better way. My name's Heath Esslinger with FCA Wrestling and A Better Way Athletics, and today we're going to be talking about spending, how much we're spending on this whole idea of youth sport. I said a few weeks ago we were going to talk a little bit about GoFundMes. I actually recently saw a GoFundMe. Hey, Veronica Aspen, thanks for tuning in. Guy Harris jumping on here. But we were talking about GoFundMes. I saw someone had set up a GoFundMe to help them pay for a Little League youth event. I'm going to call a timeout so that I continue to sound spiritual and honor the things I believe in. If you're setting up a GoFundMe for your youth Little League event, you're either one of two things. You're quite selfish or you're spending way too much money on youth sport. You do not have to spend the astronomical amount that the world possibly says. I know I spend so much money on sport, not just in the training or the opportunity, but on the concession stand and the hotels and the travel and all these different things. So we believe this, if we're going to put sport in its proper perspective, we've got to create some boundaries. One of the things we know about boundaries is that boundaries aren't designed to limit us. Boundaries are designed to liberate us. So one of the first boundaries we believe you have to create as you navigate this journey we call sport is a financial boundary. If you're out there and you've ever bought a home, okay, I've bought a couple of homes, and I don't buy the same price home as everyone else in America because there are certain things I can and can't afford. So the first thing you do when you're buying a home is you put in max price. Hey, here's what we can afford. Then from max price, you move to bedrooms, bathrooms, school zone, all these different things. And all of those boundaries that you put in whittle down the homes that your family can afford and that it meets your needs. Well, in the sports world today, what's happening is everyone is trying to keep up with everyone else. Everyone's trying to keep up with everyone else. And then what happens is we find ourselves 5 or 6 years down the road spending astronomical amounts of money and receiving very little return on investment. I want to give you some statistics here. This is from TD Ameritrade. 1 in 5 parents spends more. You ready for this? 1 in 5 parents spends more than $1,000 per child a month on sport activities. 1 in 5. 8% of families spend more than $2,000 per month per child. I have 4 kids. That means I would be spending $8,000 a month per child. I would be bankrupt a long time ago. I don't even have $8,000 go into my bank account every month. 11% spend about $1,000 to $2,000 per month. 18%, which is probably where most of us are about $500 to $1,000 a month in youth sport. And then 63% of Americans are going to spend about $100 to $500 per month per child on sport. And you say, well, we're not spending that much. Once you do hotels and all those different things, we are all spending way too much money on this thing we call sport. And why are we doing it? Here's why we're doing it. Because we are convinced that our job is to provide our child all the best opportunities. You've heard it 1,000 times here from myself and our team here. Your job as a parent is not to provide your child all the best opportunities. Your job as a parent is to discern what are the right opportunities for your child that will prepare them for this life that's ahead of them that probably doesn't even involve sport. It also, Time Magazine did an article that talked about one of the reasons we're seeing so much craziness in the sports world is when we spend this much money on sports, if we're spending $1,000 a month on little Johnny to get batting lessons, then by golly, I expect little Johnny to hit the baseball. And the problem is little Johnny can't see straight, so that's the reason he's not hitting the baseball, or he's not athletic. You can get all the lessons you want. So here's our challenge today. Our challenge today is this. Do you know what you're spending, and do you believe you're spending a healthy amount? I believe there's 2 questions we got to ask when it comes to creating a financial boundary, because the research shows if we would take just a little bit of this money that we're spending on sports, invest it in a very modest, any IRA, whatever, return on investment, anything that gives us a true return on investment, then by the time our kid graduates from high school, we could allow them to walk on at their dream school because we would have the finances in there to do that. So 2 questions that I believe you have to ask yourself as you create this financial boundary when it comes to sport, just like you would for a house or a car or whatever. The first question is this: how much are we willing to spend? Now, here's what I know. Not everyone is going to have the same financial boundary because not everyone has the same family income. But you have to ask yourself, how much are we willing and able to spend on this journey we call sport? What are we willing to sacrifice? What are we willing to do? We see in a lot of the research that people are sacrificing their retirement and all these different things to finance a child's youth sport career. We're crazy. We're crazy. Buy that kid a bat, buy him a bucket of balls, get him go find him a used basketball goal. There are ways to get better without spending insurmountable amounts of money. So the first question we got to ask is, how much are we willing and able to spend on this journey we call sport? Now, here's an important question. It's question number 2. Question number 2 is this: how early are we willing to spend that amount of money? How early are we willing to spend that amount of money? Here is my take. It doesn't have to be your take. Is that early on in our child's athletic career, we should really limit the amount of money we spend, because no one cares about 7-year-old basketball or 7-year-old wrestling or whatever. We don't need to be spending insurmountable amounts of money. Pack that money away, save it for later, because there may come a time where your child actually chooses to be great, and you would like to invest in some of those things that they're choosing later on in life. So we have to ask ourselves, how much are we willing and able to spend? And then the second question is this: how early are we willing to start that spending? My rule of thumb is this: don't spend any money till middle school. No money. And when I say no money, sign them up for their elementary basketball league. They get a crappy uniform. It's $35 and you're playing at the local gym. It's no big deal. All right. It doesn't last very long, these things. When they get to middle school, you begin to give them some leash, because the child is making some conscious decisions on what they want to do, where they're placing effort, and all these types of things. So we want to give them leash at the time in life where they are choosing these things and they actually have the capacity to get better. So how much are we willing and able to spend? And then how early are we going to start spending this kind of money? Because if we start spending it too early, and we spend so much and then our child quits, or maybe they're just not good enough, it could be frustrating. Or if we spend so much so early and we don't have it to spend at the time in life where we should make the investment, then we could get ourselves in trouble. We also want to make sure of this: we're not sacrificing everything else for our child to have success in sport. Take a vacation, buy a boat, pay your house off, get new tires for your car so it's safer to drive. Whatever you need to do, we've got to make sure that we have the funds to do those things that we deem necessary. So, man, I know it's easy to get sucked into spending and spending and spending and going and going and going. You are not going to cheat your child by drawing some limits, putting some boundaries, putting a financial boundary in place and saying, hey, here's what we're able to do. I know this. My children wish we lived in a bigger house. They wish we had a brand new car. All right. They would love all sorts of things, but because we can't afford it, we just don't do it. It doesn't make us bad parents. It's where we're at in life. Same is true in sport. You don't have to spend all this money to set your kid up for success. At the end of the day, develop the intrinsic things in your child that matters, and then you will be giving them a chance for success. Hey, we want to remind you of a couple of things. Follow us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Better Way Athletics. Look us up. If you have questions, DM me. We'll get you there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, A Better Way Athletics. All of these videos we do go on to our YouTube channel. Go to our Better Way Athletics website. Sign up for our email chain. We want to get information to you. We're so excited about the things that God is doing and the doors He's opening for us to make a difference in the sport world. And I'm fortunate that I get to work for an organization like Fellowship of Christian Athletes, being involved in this deal called the Better Way Athletics, because I believe that God is truly doing a work, and we want to invite you not simply to listen, but to be a part of the work that He's doing. Coaches, here's the reminder: coach them hard, but love them harder. Parents, Here's the reminder. Don't try to be your child's sports agent. Just be their parent. Focus on the things that are going to matter in 20 years. Give them the things that truly matter. Don't be their sport agent. Just be their parent. And every time they get in that car, every time they walk in the door, every time you finish an event, make sure you remind them of how much you love to watch them play. I want to give a big shout out. Just found out my guy Alonzo Allen just got in the NCAA tournament, wrestling 125 pounds for Chattanooga. We're going to be in Pittsburgh next week for the NCAA Division I wrestling tournament. I can't wait to see many of you guys there. Continue to make a difference in the space that God's given to you. Thanks so much for tuning in this week.